So as I said last week, I thought the easiest way for me to have a store of things that I want to talk about is to take a theme. And so last week I started on the theme of the things I like about Jamaica and Jamaicans. And maybe it'll make you laugh, but I want to talk about the way in which Jamaicans deal with time. Why would that make you laugh? Well, because of course the stereotype is that Jamaicans are always late for everything. And certainly there's a different attitude to time in England and in Jamaica. If you go to London, if you ever travel to London on holiday, one of the things that even makes other English people laugh about people in London, and certainly would just, I think, strike Jamaicans as sheer madness, is the way in which people in the morning especially and in the evening when they're commuting, coming into work or going home, they go onto the underground train which travels around underneath London and takes you to the different places, and people will literally run up and down the escalators on the underground to get to that train just 1 minute or 30 seconds ahead of time so that they get to their destination just that little bit earlier. People are obsessed with getting to places on time, and certainly the English prize being on time for things, punctuality. Father Aidan likes to say punctuality is the courtesy of kings. And I think it is true that at least many Jamaicans are not quite as punctual as English people. But I think if you just focus on that, you miss something much more important, which is that it's not just that Jamaicans have less of an anxiety about people being at a place on time. Though, as I say, that varies a bit. There are some who are more stressed about these things than others. But also, and I think this is the bit I find attractive, Jamaicans are more likely to be upset with you if you rush off. In other words, they want you to spend time with them. People are more likely to be offended if you rush in and rush out than if you arrive a bit late, but then take your time with them. I think that's actually a good thing. I think a lot of the way in which we show love for people is by giving them our time. And I think, if you think about it, the two different prejudices are about, or the two different attitudes to time are about different attitudes to your own time. If you think that other people should, to an English person, if you are late for something, what you're saying to them is your time is more important than theirs. So if you are late to a meeting with an English person, that English person is going to think, this person thinks they're more important than me. And English people will actually even use that in a hostile way to make that claim, right? So businessmen will turn up to a meeting late as a way of saying to the other people at the meeting, I'm more important than you are. Now, no Jamaican is saying is intending, by being late, is intending to say, I'm more important than you are. It's just not a part that Jamaicans stress in public life in the same way. But if you are somebody who never has time for other people, what you are saying is, my time is more important than theirs. I'm such a busy person. And I actually like the idea that in many ways we show love by spending time, or even in some situations, what might feel like wasting time with other people. You're not doing anything obviously productive, but you're giving them your attention. So I remember very, very well when my brother died a few years ago, and the parish priest, who is an African missionary to Europe, and that's the time we live in these days, and and he spent literally the whole day with my parents. And he didn't really talk to them very much. It wasn't like he was constantly telling them things. I think sometimes when people are distressed, we feel like we want to do something, help them by doing something, and sometimes practical things help. Certainly, you know, the thing of bringing food to somebody who is bereaved is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. But actually, a lot of the time, our friends and our family, those who need our time, just need us to be there. They don't need something in particular. They want us to spend time with them, take time with them. And people feel awkward in those circumstances about taking time, but just because they don't know, they feel like they don't know what to say, or they don't know what to do. But actually, just by being with somebody, you are doing something. Now, this makes, of course, cross-cultural communication tough. If Jamaicans meet English people, they find them rude because English people are rushing about all the time. If English people meet Jamaicans, they find them rude because Jamaicans are often a bit late for things. And so a lot of the time in life we're being judged by other people's standards. And sometimes we should allow that to happen, and we should be aware of what other people expect. When I have my dealings with Father Aidan, I'm always careful to be on time, because, as I say, he stresses punctuality. But with Jamaicans, I try to take my time now. I think I've slowed down a bit and learned to spend time with people. And I find all of this really interesting because, I love the differences between people, but also I actually think Christian relationship with time is interesting already, because we worship a God who is outside of time. And one day we hope to have our lives fulfilled in a way where we will share in God's eternity. And that means we will, as it were, come to rest, come to spend all of our time with each other and with God. And so in this life, we are learning to find our place in eternity. And it seems to me a good way of doing that, to slow down at least some of the time. Be punctual with people who expect it because that is polite to them. But take time with people, find time to spend with people, because actually I think the best moments in our lives, even in the difficult times of our lives, are those moments when time seems to stretch out and almost disappear, and the time that we pass with another person becomes almost difficult to say how long we've been together. And that's those moments when I think we touch eternity, we touch that resting with God that we are all preparing to do. Our whole lives are lived towards that love of God which will fill our lives in heaven. And in this life, we prepare for it by loving those around us. And as I say, I think Jamaican culture is onto something in stressing the importance of spending time with others.